I really want to play this goddamn game. But first, I must adhere to the standard video essay structure of bringing up something seemingly unrelated first, and then bringing it to my main point, so that I seem really smart. Long War 1 is my favorite game of all time. Long War isn't a game you can go spend $20 to play, though, it's a mod. It's a mod for the XCOM reboot, Enemy Unknown, a game which, good lord, is 10 years old now. RimWorld, similarly, is approaching a decade old as well. It's old enough that I actually bought my copy at the ripe old age of 11, right after watching a video by Italics, then known as Gamer's Descent back in the fucking dark age. It's old enough that when I bought it, I didn't even get a Steam key. I only got it when it came to the platform many, many years later, and I had to email the devs to get it. The developers of my beloved Long War have not just disappeared from the earth since the release of 1.0 in 2015, they too have gone on to other projects. They were commissioned by Firaxis themselves to make Long War 2, and have since gone on to make their own game, Terra Invicta. It's a bit rough currently, but it is genuinely a game that can compete with Paradox in terms of scale, scope, and quality. So what's the takeaway? Apart from me being an absolute and unabashed Pavonis fanboy girl, the takeaway is that modding teams turned game developers can absolutely 100% without question create incredibly complicated, in-depth experiences that rival some of the best of the best. With that, I'd like to turn to the actual focus here, and remember I'm really smart, Ascent of Ashes. Both its development team, Vivid Storm and Pavonis, started as mod teams for tactical strategy games. Both in the story generator subgenre even, they supported and constantly updated their work for at least 3 years, going on nearly double that for Vivid Storm, and are now going to work on their own games based on the ideas put forth in their mods. The dev team made an absolutely incredible mod for RimWorld called the Combat Extended, which is a mod that I would argue is basically mandatory for the combat in RimWorld to not feel like complete shit. Base RimWorld operates a lot on D&D logic, where every so often an attack will just remove someone's limb. It makes the combat oddly slapstick, and Combat Extended adds a bunch of mechanics that turn the shooting into actual shooting, instead of just a RNG fest. If you have never played RimWorld, then, well, first off, I do pity you. Steam doesn't exactly hand out those overwhelmingly positive review scores like candy. The most recent patch at the time of writing literally added racism. Biotech also added children, which is its own unbelievably bad can of worms. All of the
redacted
and various forms of
this section has been redacted
can now be done to infants as well as elders. Sorry, yeah, Ascent of Ashes. My absolute favorite aspect of RimWorld is the combat, specifically with Combat Extended. It probably shouldn't surprise you considering how much time I have in Long War, but I would absolutely love a game that is more focused on XCOM's tactical combat side of things with the tight-knit group of characters that RimWorld offers, and that seems to be precisely what Ascent of Ashes is going for. If you're over the age of 30, you're also probably screaming at me to go play Jagged Alliance, and I would love to. Except the most recent one came out a decade ago. Jagged Alliance is a game about the management of an intimately tied together squad and the larger resistance backing them up in the effort of liberating a country from an oppressive regime. Back in Action is a lot more dumbed down and simpler than the previous games in the series, the ones that look like they're played on Atari, and even then it manages to be a far deeper experience than plenty of other strategy games, like you, Chaos Gate. I hate you! I'm not quite sure we're at game design perfection just yet. So far, no game has really managed to perfectly meld the character intricacies and intimacy of RimWorld with XCOM's combat and Jagged Alliance encounters and stealth. I kind of explain why here in this video. The type of experience that I want to sink my teeth into, doesn't exist. Because there's not enough masochists like me for the market to be wide enough for development on such a title to be justified by big mainstream developers. But you may realize I specified there that this kind of thing is avoided by mainstream developers. Ascent of Ashes is literally being made by a mod team. I make other good points in that video too, you should totally go watch it, I'm not biased at all. I really hope that AoA's combat doesn't fall into the XCOM 2 problem. Alpha striking means killing your enemies as fast as possible, and specifically killing them before they get an opportunity to fight back via their own actions. It's a problem prevalent in all of the modern XCOM titles, and is something only really fixed in Operators vs. Aliens, by giving everyone suppression and massively reduced lethality across the board. In the marketing material they've shown so far, things do seem exceptionally lethal, which admittedly does worry me a little bit, but all of those examples are pretty decisive with flanking and the expending of resources. The reason it's important for the game not to be too lethal is pretty simple. You want to be forced to use those tools, right? To have the player flank, to use grenades, and to have to put effort into encounters through maneuver warfare. warfare. The easiest way to fuck that up is to make trench warfare a viable strategy, and this is something that even Long War screwed up on. I would say that the most optimal way to play Long War is to stick 3 infantry and 3 gunners on every single squad, bunker down in cover, and win through volume of fire. This is not maneuver warfare, this is the fucking Somme. Before you ask, why yes, this video is a thinly veiled excuse for me to gush about how much I want to play this game. It probably won't work, but hey, I can lie to myself that I'm relevant enough to be even considered for QA. Vivid Storm, I am accepting industry-wide record low rates of $0 per hour to test your game. Here is my resume. I got a letter from YouTube the other day complaining about my engagement, and it says, at the end of every video, make sure to say, please like, subscribe, comment, favorite, bookmark, and share on every private Discord server. Which is a little weird, but... Oh, and there's also a PS here. It says, and make sure to say, thanks, it really helps me out. But, what kind of self-respecting person's gonna put that in their video?
The P in PS4 stands for come in my mailbox.